Looking up on a clear, dark night, you can't help but wonder, are we alone in the universe? I'd like to share with you the story of a space telescope, how a space telescope built right here in Boulder has pushed us closer to the answer. For most of history, we only knew about 5 other worlds in our solar system. The Greeks called them planets, a word meaning wanderers, because these bright lights in the sky were constantly moving against the backdrop of stars. The more distant planets had to wait for the invention of the telescope. Uranus was discovered by a British astronomer in 1781. Neptune was predicted by a French mathematician and confirmed in 1846. The first planet to be discovered around another star like our sun wasn't discovered until 1995. Illustrated here to scale, the planet was about the size of Jupiter, but it's 100 times closer to its sun. By 1999, dozens of planets were known around other stars, and for the first time, astronomers found one that passed directly in front of its star as seen from the Earth, causing a brief eclipse of the starlight. The first direct image of a planet orbiting another star came around 2008, but this is still only possible for young planets in very wide orbits around the nearest stars in the sky. By 2009, hundreds of planets had been discovered around other stars, but most of them were these hot Jupiters, very unlike the planets in our solar system. Huge planets in very close orbits that are easier to detect. What we really want to find, though, are planets more like the Earth. To support life as we know it, the planet should be small and rocky, and should orbit at a distance from its star where the temperature is just right for liquid water to exist. To find these small planets around other stars, NASA's Kepler Space Telescope was built right here in Boulder at Ball Aerospace. It's not the biggest thing out there. The Hubble Space Telescope is the size of a school bus. Kepler's more like a Prius. The mirror is less than half the size of the one in Hubble. If your eyes were this big, you'd be hideous, but you'd also be able to see stars that are 10,000 times fainter than what you can see now. At the focus of the telescope is this huge digital camera. It snaps new images every 30 minutes to monitor the brightness of 150,000 stars, hoping that just a few percent might see eclipses of these small planets. Kepler was launched in March 2009 from Cape Canaveral, Florida. It basically just follows the Earth around the sun, close enough for regular radio communication, but far enough away to avoid the glare of our planet. For the next 4 years, Kepler just stared at this one small patch of the summer Milky Way. Some of the stars that Kepler was watching would have planets, and some of those planets would pass directly in front of their star. From outside the solar system, the Earth would block 0.1% of the sun's light just for several hours once a year. Kepler provided an unblinking eye to find these planets like the Earth around other stars. Before Kepler, we knew that a few percent of the stars in our galaxy had large planets the size of Jupiter or Neptune. But we didn't know how common the smaller planets were because we just couldn't detect them. After Kepler's 4-year survey, we learned that small planets like the Earth are the rule, not the exception. In fact, most of the stars in our galaxy probably have at least one planet smaller than Neptune. Earlier this year, I was part of a team that found 5 small planets around this star, Kepler 444. It's an 11 billion year old star. It means that the galaxy has been forming rocky planets since basically the beginning. Among the thousands of planets that Kepler has discovered, about a dozen are nearly as small as the Earth and orbit in the habitable zone of its star where liquid water could exist. And one of them is almost a twin of the Earth. But that's just from the 150,000 stars that Kepler surveyed. Our galaxy contains a few 100 billion stars, and there are at least 100 billion galaxies in the universe. Habitable planets are everywhere. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence has already started to listen for radio signals from these newly discovered planetary systems. The question is not if we will find other life in the galaxy. The question is when.